everyone. So today I wanted to talk about this new release, The Maidens. This exists. So I finished this month and it was awful. So bad. So I have many points to go through as to why this was just subpar at best. But first I thought I'd give a quick synopsis of the book. It's supposed to be kind of like a murder mystery with like elements of like psychology and ancient Greece and whatever, and I'm like, okay, that is right up my alley. Dark academia kind of vibe to it. Yes, I'm here for this, absolutely. No, I am no longer here for this. I would like to leave without this. So the main character is Mariana, who is Greek, and she lives in England. There has been a death on the campus of Cambridge University, and she believes that it has something to do with this like secret society that this one teacher that gives her really bad vibes is sort of like in charge of. And so basically this book is her trying to out him as the murderer before he murders more people, and it sounds really good, but it's not. I thought I'd just go point by point of the many problems I had with this book and why I do not recommend it. And I also wanted to give a quick little disclaimer that just because I don't like this book doesn't mean that you're not allowed to like this book. I also did want to put a bit of a trigger warning on this video. I will be talking about some things like abuse, like sexual assault, mental illness, and death. This book was pretty dark and covers all those topics. So I'm not entirely sure how to do this book review and say everything that I need to say without it having spoilers in it. So for that reason, huge spoiler alert on this video. If you don't want to be spoiled, I put a review on my Goodreads and you can read that instead. So the first point that I had was that the author's knowledge of ancient Greek culture and literature, and also his knowledge of psychology, seems very superficial. It seems like he might have read one book on both topic and went, I can do something with this. And it felt like it was like both of those elements were just sprinkled into the book to add some flavor to it. It had nothing to do with the overall plot, and it overall didn't add anything to the book. Which brings me to my next point of why the element of psychology even needed to be in this book. The main character is a psychotherapist, and she holds group therapy sessions, but this doesn't add anything to the book. She doesn't use her knowledge of other people and how their minds work to figure out who the killer is, and she doesn't actually aid in the investigation at all. She actually hurts the investigation by potentially tampering with evidence and not leaving the crime scenes alone. And it seems like if the author wanted to make a murder mystery, why not make her a cop? Why not make her a detective? Why can't she be actually part of the investigation if the author wants her to be part of the investigation so badly? Why does Mariana keep looking into things? If she really wants to help the investigation along, why not tell the police what she knows and then leave it at that? The police are doing their job, and they seem to know a hell of a lot more about this than she does. They don't come off as though they don't care, they come off as though they really do care, but she keeps messing with their crime scenes and she's gonna get evidence thrown out. Like, that's literally just not how anything works. You need to stop messing with dead bodies. Also, the characters' personalities felt very underdeveloped. The dialogue in the book is supposed to help us as readers learn more about the characters and their motives and their actions, and instead it just felt really stilted and like the only purpose of the dialogue was just to move the plot along. And the way it came off was just emotionless, like two robots having a conversation with each other. And there was no real emotion in any of the dialogue or behind any of the characters. I had no idea what their motives for anything was because they just made no sense as characters. And you would think for a book that was trying to focus so much on psychology that there would have been something more there, something going on behind the scenes. And you know how the saying goes, you're supposed to show, not tell? All this author did was tell, not show. And at one point, this person is coping with the death of her friend, and she's supposed to feel really sad about that, and the main character is really worried that this person is just going to break down, but she doesn't. She doesn't react at all. Not only did she not deal with it, she was like supposed to be sad about it, but it didn't come off as though she was sad at all. You don't see it, you don't believe it. And there was also this instance of a character named Elsie, who in one part of the dialogue she's talking and she says, Elsie helps take care of everybody. And then afterwards the author adds, Elsie had a habit of referring to herself in the third person. Like, no. I never would have picked up on that if you hadn't just told me that, even though she literally just referred to herself in the third person in the dialogue that you wrote. And the chapters keep ending in really weird sentences that seem like it's supposed to be really ominous, but it just sounds really cheesy. The chapters were also unnecessarily short. It felt like the character was in the middle of an action and then it would get cut off to like try and build this ominous feel, but it didn't. It made everything feel really unfinished, and the stops were very jarring and just took you out of the book. So already, because it's not doing a very good job of drawing you in, you keep having these stops that pull you out of it. I'm not drawn into this. I'm not convinced I'm actually in this world. I'm very, very painfully aware that I am reading a book and I'm not enjoying it. There was one instance where the book literally says, the wine made her bold and reckless. And in literally the next sentence, it says she chose her words carefully. Like, is she careful or is she reckless? Pick one and make it make sense. And honestly, one of the biggest problems that I had with this book is that you can just very clearly tell that it was written by a man writing women, and it doesn't really seem like he spent a lot of time talking to women to ask them about their perspective before trying to write this. It came off really creepy. So first of all, literally every man that Mariana runs into keeps hitting on her. And it seems like, do you not think that, one, women can go out in the world and not be hit on, two, that we like being hit on all the time if that is the case, or three, that women can't just have guy friends? She also keeps throwing herself into really weird situations with strange men that she doesn't know and makes her feel really uncomfortable, and yet she chooses to be alone with them with no weapon on her at all. Like, who in their right mind? What woman? I cannot think of a single woman that I know that would think, I think that person's a murderer. You know what I should do? I should go on a date with them. What? Why would you do that? Make it make sense. And in one scene, this person that she's absolutely convinced has murdered multiple people at this point kisses her when she's clearly angry at him, and then basically runs away with a smug smile on his face so that she can't do anything about it, which obviously makes her even more angry. And then the text said it felt as if she had been assaulted. And it seemed like the author was insinuating that she wasn't just assaulted, even though she was. She did not consent to that. And he knew that, which is exactly why he was smug about it and ran away. And why he did it so quickly so that she couldn't say no and didn't have time to pull away. And I swear I will say it until I die. Consent is everything. If you don't have consent, just stop. There's also one character that she keeps talking about thinking of as a boy. Mind you, he's in like his mid-20s and she's in her mid-30s. So technically, like, there's nothing wrong with the age gap. However, you can tell that she's falling for him, and you can tell that we are supposed to root for this relationship, but she keeps referring to him as a boy. That's so creepy. Please don't do that. I don't want to root for that relationship. And to add more problems to that dynamic, he also will not take no for an answer. The first time that they meet, he asks her out for drinks, and she says no. And he's like, that's okay, I'm gonna marry you anyways. I'm sorry, you're gonna who and what? Why? No, stop. There's also another instance where she actually ends up having drinks with him, and he says, do you want any more wine? She says no. He then proceeds to pour her another glass of wine and hands it to her. What part of the word no was unclear to you? I feel like it is not that difficult to understand. No, she doesn't want any more wine. No, she doesn't want to marry you. Yeah, I said marry because he literally, after knowing her for 2 days, proposes to her. And when she says no, you know, like a sane person, he says, but I told you that I'm kind of like a prophet and that one day I would ask you to marry me and you would say yes. Like, well, when you put it that way, hell yes, sign me up. No. Ooh, sorry, I'm getting really heated, but that really bothers me. He is also, to just add more problems to it, a stalker. He shows up out of the blue so many times. There's one part where she's literally walking through the campus at night by herself, and he jumps out from behind a bush and is like, hey, do you want to go have drinks with me? And without saying anything along the lines of no, or why were you behind that bush, or are you stalking me, she just says, sure. Are you sure? It doesn't really address Zoe's abuse at all. It's just all summed up in the last 10 pages. Like, the author was like, all right, I just want to get this done. Like, the fact that her relationship with Sebastian started when she was 15 shows very clear signs of abuse. And yet, it is not addressed nearly as much as it should be. That would have been a perfect opportunity to say, look at what can happen to people that are in fragile situations. That would be your opening to start pushing the psychology aspect that you're supposed to know about. But we didn't get that at all. And we never had any hint that Sebastian would ever do something like that. The only things we got were that he was a great husband and a great friend to her, and that he was dead. That's it. That's all we know about him. So it doesn't make any sense for you to come out at the last bit and be like, oh, by the way, he was plotting a murder. We never get to see how he might have made excuses for his behavior, but apparently he was having an affair with a minor that lived in her house, and we were told that she knew what Zoe was about to say before she said it to her. So if she had this inkling that something is happening, why didn't we get to hear about it? Like, we got to see it with her dad. There were some things where you could clearly tell she's pushing away these bad traits of her father, but you as the reader can kind of tell that those are definitely bad traits and she's not acknowledging that, but you never see anything like that from her husband. And it honestly just seemed like the only reason that the author did that is because he got to the end and went, what is the most astonishing thing that I can do right now? Oh, that guy that we're supposed to love and be grieving for? Yeah, let's make him the murderer. And I think the last thing that I have to say about this is that she has a patient named Henry who has been having some problems, whatever. She's a therapist. That's her job, is to help him. But he keeps crossing boundaries, like, again, literally stalking her. How many stalkers does this woman have? And why does she never call the cops? And at one point, he breaks into her room, and she's pretty certain that he's going to attack her and she's gonna die. And then nothing happens with it. Like, was he supposed to be a decoy? Were we supposed to think that he was somehow committing these murders? Because we didn't think that, because she was literally with him at the time that the first murder happened. So, like, from the beginning, that's already not an option. And it seemed like the only reason that this character was in the book was so that the author could comment on how dangerous people with mental illnesses are, which is a horrible comment to make, especially coming from a person who makes a therapist the main character. You would think that the author would know that just by having a mental illness does not make you a dangerous person, and that most people with mental illnesses are not dangerous people. And it's actually just really insulting. I just unpacked a lot there. So if you have any questions about any of that, please let me know down in the comments below. But basically, I ended up giving this book 2 stars, and the more that I think on it, the more I'm like, I'm gonna lower it to 1 star. And now the one thing that I'm struggling with is, do I keep it or not? Because hear me out, I hated this book. I know hate's a strong word. I hated this book. But, goddamn that cover though. Look at that cover. And I will put the name of the person that designed the jacket down below because I definitely think that he deserves some praise. And he's also made a lot of other like really beautiful, really well-known covers, like ones for V.E. Schwab and such. And he got me to pick up this book. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might have some beef with him. I'm kidding. But yeah, honestly, if you're looking for something with Greek mythology in it, Riordan has written some really good books for that. If you're looking for something that has like secret societies, The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, an amazing book, very well done. And that one is more of a psychological thriller as well. So I would definitely say check those books out instead of this one. But yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you like this book, okay. I would genuinely like to start a discussion down in the comments about it. What did you like? What didn't you like? I'd like to hear from you. Alright everyone, I'll see you later with a book review for a book that I gave 4 stars. Bye.